Today's episode is sponsored by Winston's Pub and Patio. Winston's is an English pub right on the Metairie, New Orleans line, so it's easy to get to from anywhere. They have a great patio, and you can even bring your pup. That's Winston's Pub and Patio.
Hello, everybody. This is Megan.
And this is Alana.
And welcome to Tea Time Crimes. We're back.
Bet you missed us.
Or maybe not. Maybe you're listening for the first time. Welcome. Alana brings the tea. I bring the crime. She doesn't know what I'm going to say at any point, and I never know what she's going to say. But we took a short break so that I could move. Moving is fun. Appreciate you guys re-listening to those episodes for us. Yeah. I mean, it's great. The house is great, but it's just moving is so stressful.
There's so much work, and it's always stressful, and you'll always get in a fight.
Oh, yeah, always.
With anybody involved.
You reach that point where, I mean, at least I do, because we packed everything ourselves, and we're not professional packers. We're just a hodgepodge of things goes in bags.
Yep.
I just started using trash bags.
Especially at the end when you're like, where the fuck do I put this?
Yeah. And some things got accidentally thrown out. Brad is notorious for throwing out things that are stored in trash bags. He's done it on several occasions. And
sorry, Goodwill.
Some of the things I had set aside for my nephew aren't going to make it to him. I'm pretty sure they're at the dump.
Oh.
So, it happens. You live your life. But it's just getting used to.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah. Live, laugh, go through the trash. When we first got here, we have the 4 animals. I don't know why I said it like that. Animals. But we have the 2 dogs and the 2 cats. And Sophie, I'm not sure she knew that we moved. She was like,
doesn't.
She was like, I'm on my same bed. The walls are a different color. Maybe the walls are a different color. Maybe there's less windows.
Maybe that's normal for her.
But maybe they've always been this color. I'm not any different.
Exactly.
I'm Sophie. Pepper.
Nymeria would be the same.
Is Mischief, and we could not find him, and you start getting nervous because when they're in that new place, you don't know.
I know.
You haven't had a chance to
exactly
retrain.
What you're talking about.
And we could not find him, and I started getting really nervous. And because we have a kid, doors are open and closed, and even though you're watching like a hawk, So I put Brad upstairs. I put my son in the living room, and I was in the kitchen, and I was like, I'm opening a can of food. Everybody look. And I opened the can of food and I said, everybody watch for him. He's got to be here. And then all of a sudden my son's like, I found him. And we come running into the living room. He had crawled into the fireplace, which was not on, behind the wood pile and just peeked up his little head.
Stop it.
Covered in soot.
Oh, soot.
He's white. I mean, he's white and black. So maybe he was just he's like, I think I'm going to get rid of my roots now. Just dye the whole thing black.
Cat era.
Yeah, he was covered, and that was his go-to. For 2 days, he kept running into the fireplace, which is not ideal. So we had
trouble.
And it had fences in front of it. Well, not fences, whatever it's called. The thing was in front of it.
Now you need a chimney sweep, man.
Is that what we need? I mean, we haven't even used it.
Do they still have those?
I doubt it. I mean, but somebody's got to clean the chimney, right?
I'm just thinking of, what's that movie?
Mary Poppins.
Mrs. Poppins? Oh, Mary.
Mrs. Poppins. Anyway, we found him. He's in the fireplace like a dummy. He's fine, but just chaos.
One time that happened with our kitten who got in the dishwasher, behind the dishwasher. And we truly were we looked everywhere. We can't find her.
Not in the dishwasher, behind the dishwasher.
No, there's a little gap and she slithered through she's little. And went behind it. It's wow.
Okay, but not inside it. If you were to turn on a cycle, she would not have been washed with the dishes.
No. Okay. She was in a little crevice beside it.
Ugh. Okay.
Just trouble. I mean, it's funny because I feel like Pepper and Tezzy have very similar vibes. when we move, Tezzy's gonna be like, he loves to like go in every if there's like a door opening or a closet door opening, it's like, I'm going in.
Yeah, they're adventurous. And I don't know if Tezzy's like this, but Pepper will chill with the dogs.
Oh yeah.
Sophie wants nothing to do with those disgusting beasts. Why are they in her bedroom? That's the vibe she gives off, as if she looks down at the peasants. She dislikes when they enter her room, and she gives a bunch of hisses and runs. But Pepper he'll just sit there giving them baths, like hanging out, wanting to go outside with them. He can't, but he'll sit at the window and bite the blinds while they're outside.
Oh,
I know, pitiful. But anyway, he's loose right now, so this podcast might get interrupted by Sarah Winchester or Pepper because he's still roaming, getting used to the lay of the land here. But anyway, how are you? Did I miss anything? Did you have what was a bunch of possums called? Do you have a gaggle of possums, a herd of possums, a school of possums? What is it called? Do we know?
I don't know, actually. Not a ton happening, except me thinking about The Sound of Music and why did Maria choose that as a career choice? It was never going to work for her.
What?
As a nun.
Do they really go into Maria after? Is there a sequel to The Sound of Music?
Think about it. Why do you think she went for nunnery? I've been thinking about it a lot lately. It doesn't fit her.
I mean, maybe she heard the rumors about the bread.
There's no bread in the nunnery. That's the
you
monks.
Say it. So maybe it was a common misconception. She went in and was devastated. By the way, a group of possums is called a passel.
A passel of possums.
Or apostle. I don't know. Passel.
What a weird word.
Well, yeah, almost as weird as you talking about The Sound of Music out of nowhere.
It just comes up in your brain.
Does it? All right. Why don't we
World War
soothe
II.
that brain with some tea?
Oh, yeah. Today, I have the Prince of Wales tea. It is a Twinings.
Hey, nailed it.
So, don't expect a good description.
Sorry, Twinings?
Yeah, I'm really building up for a good partnership with them. There's a picture of a castle. All it says, discover the light, velvety, smooth taste of this refined tea. And ingredients, black tea, period. So let your imaginations run wild.
There's really a period after that?
There is.
Let your imagination run wild. Hey, they put in the adjective velvety. It's pretty good.
They did. I'm not a big fan of that, though.
Velvety?
Yeah.
Gosh, don't make me think about it too much. There's already enough words I hate.
Makes me think of tongues.
Why?
Let's just get into the tea. Okay.
I think it makes 98% of people think of fabric, but...
Excuse me, I'm busy.
Yep.
Sniffing tea. It smells like black tea. So...
Period.
They did a great job. Okay. Whoa. Everybody relax.
That wasn't Sarah Winchester. Alana just got happy with her cup and hit the mic stand. I hope you love it.
It's definitely smooth. They got that right.
Hey.
And it's less malty than some other teas, like an Irish black tea, which I prefer. The maltiness will bring some depth. This has a lighter body, like maybe the Prince of Wales is watching what he eats. Maybe dining on fruit and yogurt, as it were. But it's a very nice, light, smooth black tea. I would give it a pinky up, thumbs up.
Pinky up, thumbs up.
Yeah. Would it be like this?
It's almost like the cow, not the cow.
Hey!
It's almost like the surfer thing.
Hang loose.
Hang loose. That's it. One episode you said that repeatedly. I don't remember which one it was.
That's going back to my roots.
Throwback.
Of SoCal.
All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm excited because I have a two-parter for you today. So part one is happening right now. And I think this is a recommendation. We have kind of a bad system where you just blindly shoot me messages so that you don't see them.
I panic and I just screenshot it or just send it to you on Instagram without reading it.
But I'm pretty sure
I think this is a recommendation.
I'm pretty sure it's a recommendation from the same person who recommended Isabel Mesmer.
Oh, and that was such a fun case.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
they're different women, so you shouldn't set the tone with Isabel.
We're not having a 2-gun girl.
We should leave an open mind for this experience. But here we go. I'm excited.
Here we go.
What?
I don't know. I just turned into Mario or Luigi.
Was that what it was? I thought it was Swedish.
You know what? I'm known for my good accent. So
yeah, obviously. If you ever have a spinoff, it will be an accent tutorial podcast.
Oh, God.
Anyway, this is a story that will stretch across 2 episodes and 50 years. Okay?
Whoa.
We first start off spanning the U.S. in 1924. So Calvin Coolidge is president.
Wow. Okay.
Fellow Vermonter.
Prohibition.
The very first Winter Olympics games kicked off in France, which I thought you personally would love.
God, it's so exciting.
Yeah,
we're about to be at the Olympics in France this year.
Isn't that weird?
It is weird.
I knew you'd love it. The Computing Tabulating Recording Company is officially renamed IBM.
Oh, shit.
J. Edgar Hoover becomes the first director of the FBI. Now, you won't care or know this, but to the true crime junkies out there, Leopold and Loeb are arrested. Statue of Liberty is declared a national monument. The first Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade takes place.
Oh, classic.
Hitler is released from prison. Bad move.
Fuck you.
Band-Aids are invented.
Oh, that's nice.
And Rhapsody in Blue by Gershwin is topping the charts.
All right.
The charts. There it is. So that's a pretty good rundown of kind of what's going on. In Little Rock, Arkansas, on October 10th, 1924, 23-year-old Winona Green confessed to the murder of her in-laws.
Oops. Gone too far.
That's a rough Macy's Day parade, I'll tell you that. J.R. Bob Green was murdered on August 16th, and his wife Lena went missing less than a month later on September 25th.
Uh-oh.
At first, the couple's son, Leroy Slim Green, was held for questioning. Can you imagine your nickname being Slim? I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm never going to catch it, but it's kind of cool. But investigators came to believe, and Winona supported this, that Leroy had no knowledge of his parents' murder. Winona confessed to shooting her father-in-law, Bob Green, on August 16th on the railroad tracks. A nearby witness had claimed to see a man near the body, which had led investigators down the wrong path for about a month, leading them away from any suspicion of a female, let alone Winona. And then Lena Green disappeared.
Uh-oh.
At the time of Winona's arrest, Lena's body had still not been found. But Winona claimed she had shot her mother-in-law several times, then left her body on a, quote, dim road leading to a mountain trail in Red Fork, Oklahoma.
Jeez.
Why did she do this? According to Winona, Lena had borrowed $4,000, which was a secret between the two women. And she murdered Lena to get her money back. She bought a gun, rented a car, and shot her.
Take it easy.
I don't really understand. The two don't make sense to me. Unless Lena has the $4,000 locked to her person, can't you just steal it back?
Right.
I don't really get it. But anyway, after the murder, Winona fled to Kansas via a taxi, then returned to Colorado where she'd been living. She called for her husband, Leroy, to come join her and told him that Lena and her had been traveling.
Okay.
They'd gotten into a fight, and she'd left Leroy's mother at a train station in Kansas City.
I mean, she definitely left her somewhere.
Not even in Kansas City, though. I mean, that's not even correct. Concerned, Leroy contacted family in Little Rock to check on his mother, because if that was true, then she should be home now, right? She would have caught a train at the train station and made it home. But his mother can't be found. And it's Leroy's aunt, Lena's sister, Louis Stoker, who actually went to the police and filed the missing persons report. And later, Lena's family, her sister and her brother-in-law and her nephew would actually help in searching for Lena's body.
Okay.
So police are trying to retrace Winona's steps. Police pieced together the following. Winona and Lena left Little Rock on the 24th of September. Leroy didn't leave until the 26th when Winona asked him to join.
Okay.
He's not with them on this weird road trip. However, in Oklahoma, Lena Green had cashed a check for $2,000 at a Tulsa bank. Unable to
That's a
cash
lot in the
that.
20s.
I know, unable to cash that large of an amount. The bank had only given her $200 and a draft for the remainder.
Jeez.
This draft had to be confirmed by the bank in Little Rock, upon which it was denied because it was not Lena Green who had signed or tried to cash the check. It had been a forgery, and I'm willing to bet you can guess who.
Yeah.
So in Tulsa, investigators located this taxi driver, right? Remember, from Oklahoma, she said she took a taxi because she didn't want to take the train. She took a taxi to Kansas. The taxi driver confirmed Winona was alone. So at this point, we know Lena's no longer in the picture. So the working theory pretty quickly emerges that Lena and Winona went to Oklahoma. Why, I honestly don't know. Lena was murdered there while Winona fled with what she thought was going to be $2,000. But
okay,
it didn't get
but
cashed.
It's only 200 and like an IOU, which you got to be careful coming up into the 30s. Am I right?
She's just itching to talk about the Depression. Assuming Leroy was somehow involved, he too was arrested at this time. I mean, which is, I get that, right?
It's fair. Yeah.
It's like, well, my wife murdered my parents. I had no idea.
It's normal. Yeah.
But he really didn't, sadly. But anyway, at the time, I could see where the police are going. But remember, Lena is still missing. So the only way investigators even know for certain that she's dead is because Winona said it.
Jeez.
Winona speaks to the sheriff in Tulsa over the phone from jail and gives directions to the location where she says she left Lena's body in a shallow grave. I wouldn't even call it a grave. Winona said she pushed Lena into a ravine and covered her with leaves. That's not a grave.
Interesting choice.
Law enforcement looked for 2 days before they were able to recover and find the body of Lena Green. Searching the vicinity Winona had given them. Well, it's just in the woods. You don't know what interfered. Eventually, the way that they found it was that they noticed vultures in the area, and the vultures led them to the gravesite.
Gross.
Lena's body was too badly decomposed to really confirm Winona's method of murder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, technology is bad.
A large funeral was held just a few days later in Little Rock, where the actual son of the minister who baptized Lena as a child held the service to honor her life. It was unclear if Leroy was able to attend because he's still in jail, I think. Maybe not. It was unclear when they let him go. That's brutal. As this is unfolding, it's always interesting to us, or at least me, to see how the stories hit the papers and what the papers run with. Because sometimes they're really sympathetic, sometimes they're really vicious, sometimes they become huge stories, sometimes not when you think they should be. And because Winona confessed, there really isn't a ton of coverage on her at this time outside of the area.
It's not enough drama.
Anything picked up out of town is pretty small. It's a matter-of-fact paragraph that basically says, woman killed her in-laws for $4,000, son had no idea. And that's basically it.
To the point.
But some of the smaller local papers who knew Winona personally, like in town, have a little bit more color to add. The Bixby Bulletin in Oklahoma claimed that 5 years before the crime, Winona lived in Bixby with her father, William Spriggs. Now, Winona's 18 at the time. She has a younger sister. It's said that their mother died when Winona was very young, about 6.
Okay.
I think William sold sewing machines. It says he was a sewing machine agent, which agent seems like the wrong word. So I don't know what else he would have done. Maybe he fixed them, but I also saw accounts where he was a cabinet maker. Either way, he's some sort of laborer in some sense. It's the 1920s. I'm sure he's not rolling in it, but he's probably making a livable wage.
Okay.
The Bixby Bulletin spills the tea and claimed that Winona actually ran away at 18 and eloped with a man working for the Tulsa Tribune. The two drove off into the sunset to Miami. I assumed Florida, but
it's a long drive.
There are other Miamis in the Midwest. So who knows? Yeah.
Weird.
Stole a car, made their way west, where they were eventually stopped by U.S. Marshals in Salt Lake City. Winona then returns to Bixby, single, and nobody's talking about any kind of grand theft auto charges. So I'm not sure if the charges were dropped or she talked her way out of it. It seems to just disappear.
Very interesting.
Shortly after that, the whole family moves to a nearby town. Winona gets married to Leroy and she's off.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but it's an interesting look into Winona's past. Not every thief is obviously a murderer.
Yeah.
But, it's showing some signs of escalation if you look at it as
what
big
was
picture.
always the gateway crime? Insurance fraud?
Well, all of our women
insurance
kill
fraud?
for life insurance, but I don't know what the gateway crime is. After the weight of what she had done had some time to sink in, Winona started to change her story a little bit. Because she had originally just been like, yeah, I did it. Leroy had nothing to do with it. I did it. Black tea, period. Right? That was the vibe. Winona's now claiming it was self-defense.
Okay.
By Monday, October 20th, the Tulsa World describes this new chain of events. And it goes like this. The women were in Tulsa. Lena took Winona to see some of her friends. Lena led Winona through the woods because apparently there wasn't a road to this house of friends, which I would have some questions. And once they were deep in the woods, Lena said, "You're stubborn, but now I've got you where I want you. I'll show you who will collect Roy's insurance," meaning Leroy. "I will, and I'll collect it the same way I did Dad's," meaning Robert. Again, this is according to Winona.
I was about to say, the dad's already dead.
Yeah.
By this point.
Leroy does have a $2,800 life insurance policy that, because they're married, would benefit Winona.
Yeah.
So if Winona was dead, and then I presume Lena went out and killed Leroy, she would then get $2,800.
But that's her son.
Seems like a lot of work. Winona said she was fearing for her life and in self-defense shot Lena. End of story. This still leaves the murder of her father-in-law, to which Winona says her and Lena were in on it together. That Winona pulled the trigger, but it was Lena's, she doesn't go so bold as to say it was Lena's idea, but she makes it sound like it was Lena's suggestion. Like,
to kill him.
They had a family meeting and they were like, here's some things we could try this weekend. And that was just thrown in and Winona ran with it.
But this was like a month ago and obviously no charges have been put because Winona's free to kill the mom.
Yeah, nobody thought Winona did it. It wasn't until Lena went missing that they started to think something had happened to Robert/Bob. And Lena did get life insurance when Bob died, but Winona didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the news story. Police, they're kind of listening to Winona, but they have a job to do, so they're still investigating. The undersheriff, which is a term I didn't realize and think it's weird, in Tulsa, a man by the name of Fred Lawrence believed there could be another man involved in these murders. Apparently, he claimed a witness saw a car with a man and two women traveling towards the remote location where Lena's body was eventually found. That same man saw the car return, but with only the man and the woman. One of the women being Winona.
There we go.
Could this man be Winona's first husband? Is Fred's question. Who they call Mr. Moore. To that claim, Winona tells the Tulsa World, "Well, I never knew a man named Moore in my life, and I certainly could not have been a Mrs. Moore without knowing such a man. That officer is all wet."
Ew.
So one, super weird insult, and don't Google it. But it generally means that she thinks he's incorrect. Also, it said Winona had a Southern accent. I'm going to give her one. But two, it doesn't really answer the question at all. It seems like, doesn't it seem here that it's kind of like somebody saying, you married a man named Fred Moore. And she's like, no, I didn't. And actually, like, his name was Frederick Morse. And she's like really catching on a technicality. Doesn't really answer it. Anyway, the officer is drying off. He still believes it. There are also questions of addiction trouble and Winona's general mental health. The undersheriff claims Winona is a dope fiend, and she wholeheartedly denies it, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence to that. They're also waiting for her to have a mental evaluation, but Winona is adamant, like very vocally adamant, which is probably not the smartest legal move, that she's 100% sane. She's like, I did it, and I'm sane. So, any other questions? Winona was officially indicted for the murder of her father-in-law on October 21st, 1924. Nope, sorry, I was reading two things. October 21st, 1924, which was her 24th birthday.
Okay.
And she told the papers, what a nice birthday present. I assume tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't believe the story of self-defense. Even a little bit. And I'm not sure Winona even believes it, because while she's waiting for this trial in November, the News Herald reports her as saying the following. Quote, I am not sorry for my deeds. I planned both murders, thinking them all out thoroughly in advance. Now that I have admitted everything, I'm willing to meet whatever fate awaits me. What? Winona, pick a lane, you know?
Oh, God. It's not going to go well.
No, black tea, period. Don't be adding in all this other stuff.
Tea, period.
She's also confident that the death penalty is off the table simply because she's a woman.
Oh.
Yikes. Another quote. Whoever heard of a woman being electrocuted or hanged in Arkansas? Well, Lavinia Burnett, the first woman executed in Arkansas before Winona, probably is like, I've heard of it because it happened. So, but this is like her vibe. She's just acting like it's all a big misunderstanding. Like she got caught shoplifting.
She reminds me of Candy.
Yes. Well, I use the same voice. That might be part of it.
Like a former episode. Yeah, she has those vibes going. Hopefully no incest, though.
Yeah, I can give this a stamp of no incest.
Okay, great. Love that stamp.
But there are younger men. But they're not related.
Boy.
Okay. She's also not helping her legal team out at all. She's giving them the same stuff she's giving the paper, which is just all these different half-truths and fabrications.
Yeah.
And like one day it's this and then the
mess.
next day it's this. She's all over the place. But they're doing their job as best they can, which is their only goal here is to try to save her life. Everybody knows she did it in some capacity, but they're trying to save her life. They don't want her to get the death penalty because they understand and they know that it could happen. They go for the insanity plea. And the psychiatrist who evaluates Winona diagnosed her with paresis of the brain, which according to Britannica.com is, quote, psychosis caused by widespread destruction of brain tissue occurring in some cases of late syphilis.
Whoa.
So I don't think it's correct. I mean, she lives a long life.
I did hear that syphilis will drive you nuts.
Is that a joke or?
Oh, no, it wasn't a joke. It's real.
You said that so folksy. Yeah, no, it does cause.
Yeah, it messes with your head.
It does. But she's only 24. Really? Late stages already? I guess I don't know how fast syphilis works. Yeah, hang on there, Winona. Penicillin's coming. Winona vocally disagrees, laughing at the idea that she's not sane. She's like, that's hilarious. I'm super sane, and I did it. Next question. Meanwhile,
what is your angle here, girl?
Yeah, she's not sympathetic at all. But meanwhile, Leroy proves his sanity by immediately filing for divorce. If there's ever been a grounds for divorce, it's this, right?
He's like, go.
I'm out. I did not know anything about it. I've lost my whole family. This is the worst.
Yeah, he should want revenge.
Yeah, well, you would. Now, Winona's pretty brazen in jail, and the word coquettish is thrown around a ton.
Oh.
The St. Louis Dispatch covers an interview with Winona, and the headline reads this, quote, pretty woman who confesses murdering 2 persons by herself, that's underlined, mystifies police. Winona Green, taking full responsibility for double crime, is believed to be shielding unidentified man. It's not a catchy headline, and I have some notes on the length of it, but that's what they're going with. They're pretty woman. So Mrs. Maybe where Julia Roberts got the name. I don't know.
I mean, remember Bricktop in jail found herself that
that's right. She found husband.
The prison guard. So
yeah, anything can happen. Although details of Winona's confession seem to change as often as underwear, adamant that she acted alone. But police wonder partly due to the phenomenon of the fact that she's a petite, pretty woman. Like, could she have possibly killed? That seems crazy.
Yeah.
And the papers write, it's almost inconceivable that she would possess the ingenuity and nerve to arrange the second slaying so soon after the first.
Why?
Also, in my head, after doing 100+ episodes, I think actually she waited a very long time. And it's weird that she waited that long. If this was a plan, it was poorly executed. The ingenuity?
Also, it's not that hard. You're taking someone in the woods and shooting them.
Yeah. Also, like, women can kill, but then they have to have a cooling off period of at least 2 months before they kill again. Is that the science behind this? Stupid. Anyway, aside from the fact that she's a petite lady, there is actual evidence that she might not have been alone in this.
Okay. Well, there's that sighting of the guy.
Yeah. Several witnesses have seen a man. And it turns out that it was not just one man who saw this car come back. without a woman matching Lena's description, it was an entire road crew who saw it pass through. That's why they saw it. So that's interesting. And for Bob's murder, the cigarettes were found near the crime scene as if somebody were kind of laying in wait for him to walk home. And this suggested that whoever was waiting was a smoker, and apparently Winona was not a smoker at that time.
Okay.
So there was also the original witness who saw a man run away from the crime scene at Bob's murder, which is why I remember they were not even looking at Winona to start with.
Yeah, it was just a guy.
So that's several sightings of a man with Winona. So it's interesting. But she's not.
Guy?
She's not saying. She says she did it alone.
That's weird. That feels like, I mean, I don't know her that well yet, but like, seems like she would pin it on anybody else.
I don't know. She's odd. I can't get a good grip on her.
Yeah.
And anytime we see these ladies on trial, they take on these certain personalities, or at least the newspapers personify certain personalities, right? There's the ice cold princess that they're just, nothing penetrates their steely exterior. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's the one who's emotionally vibrant and crying constantly. That'd probably be me. And then there's the super flirty. Like we're all just here to have a good time, right? Like Candy.
Right. Candy.
Yeah, that's Winona. Winona is exactly that.
Go look at that episode if you haven't watched it.
Yeah.
It is something else. It'll stick in your brain forever, unfortunately.
Winona is touching lapels and cracking jokes, and everybody's giggling. That's the word that keeps me. I know. Like, she's just entertaining reporters and being like,
I mean, it
is
the vibes of the 20s.
Is it, though, after you've done it? Like, is flirting still acceptable when you're talking to a woman who's murdered her in-laws? Is this a woman you would want to date? Probably not, you know? I'm gonna say that's a big red flag. Yeah. And she said she did it too. She's like, no, I did it, but I'd love to have dinner at your house and meet your mom. I mean, it's just, I think you need to just shut that down. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Could be a good time though.
Maybe for a minute. The deputies guarding her are kind of taking it all in like it's a show because think about this. They don't, there aren't TV shows like this. They've never seen anything like this in their lives. This is so weird to them. They don't even have female prisoners that often. So this is just over the top. They're kind of just like, I don't know what to tell you guys. She's wild. This is how she is. When asked to explain what happened, again, she's super coy, telling them to read her statement, saying, I get quite a kick out of all this.
Oh, okay.
I know. Gross, right? And I'm trying to step back and think it could be a defense mechanism.
Yeah, she could be fucking with them too.
She could be messing with them. It could be a defense mechanism where she's like, I have messed up beyond belief and I don't know how to. I'm not sure how to do this.
I could see that.
She could also be a sociopath. So.
Yeah, 2%.
We don't know. Either way, the story comes out again that has a slightly different details. So we've heard that the motive was Lena borrowed $4,000. Now it's saying that she was hoping to get the Green estate of $20,000. And it's much more calculated than previously described. Yeah. So the St. Louis Post-Dispatch explains that Winona sent a telegram to her father-in-law in Little Rock from Colorado asking for $35. She said she was sick. She wanted to see her in-laws, but she had no funds. Robert/Bob sends the money to his daughter-in-law, knowing that his son Leroy is often out of work. The article uses this time to point out that Bob is known as a very kind and generous man in general.
Oh, God.
They describe Lena as shrewish, which is a hard word to say, and frankly a little rude because...
Yeah, it's definitely rude.
I dislike that word. Sorry, Lena. Anyway, Bob sends the money, expecting Winona on the 17th of August. And so a destitute Winona instead arrives secretly on the 16th of August with nothing but a gun. And it's said that Winona then went to the railroad and waited for Bob, knowing that he got off work at midnight. Winona had lived with the Greens off and on, so she knew his schedule.
Okay.
She knew when he got off work. She knew which way he walked home. She knew it was deserted. Before he finished the 3-block walk to his house, Winona shot him 4 times, then stood over him and shot him again to be sure, and then ran away.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's 100% true, but that was one account. Now, sources vary on what happened next.
So this is coming out from the trial, right?
No, this is coming out
From
even
Lena's trial.
before. No, this is even before. There's so many versions of what happened in the papers. She's giving, just constantly giving interviews. She's loving the attention. And in every interview, whether it's from Winona or whether it's the media, I don't know, the story changes a little bit. So this is showing that it's super calculated. And then in that version of events, she gets rid of the gun, throws it in a sewer. So the Ninja Turtles have it now. And then she goes to the bus station and she sleeps there for the night. She calls the Greens in the morning. Lena breaks the terrible, sad news. And Winona says, I've just arrived, because she was pretending that she hadn't been there. She was supposed to arrive on the 17th. She's like, I just arrived. I'm at the train station now. I'll come right there and help. Some people say she was already at the house when the news broke. So I'm not sure if that travel piece is accurate. Right. But that is where Bob was killed. That is how Bob was killed. And that is most likely what happened.
But they don't suspect her because they're looking for a man at the time of it until Lena happens.
Yeah, and if you believe the travel piece, everybody's like, oh, she just got here. Couldn't have been her. Because nobody knew she had arrived on the 16th.
Right. Also, quick side note. Do you think none of the Ninja Turtles had a gun as their weapon? Because that would make it too easy.
No, I don't think their little toe claws could pull a trigger.
But they're like gripping... What we have? We have two like those.
They're gripping
thingies.
Like sticks and swords.
Yeah.
Not a trigger. Trigger's tiny.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe they'd have to have like a modified one.
Is it interesting?
It is interesting that if I didn't get that out, I would be thinking of that the whole time.
There we go. We feel better.
All right. So if we could get a modified, like a bigger area for the trigger.
Yeah, you just need a bigger hole for the trigger for Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So someone get on that.
But I feel like that would go against their practices of martial arts.
That's true. And also, I think they try not to kill people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Winona Green, the name alludes to that you might be a Ninja Turtle, but not happening. Anyway, that's a version of Winona's story. And then she goes on to say that Lena was the mastermind behind Bob's murder, and Lena collected $10,000 in a life insurance policy. Fast forward to September 24th. Now Lena and Winona head to Oklahoma. Lena has that check for $2,000, and the women wait until Leroy left to run an errand. Yeah. Like, he just like, I'm going to go get some cigarettes. I'll be back. They snuck out of the house and left a note that said, we'll be back in a couple days. Bye.
Weird.
The women arrive by train, and Winona's first stop is the pawn shop to buy a gun under an alias. This alias is up for debate. Some people say she used Hattie Loring. Some people say she used her maiden name of Spriggs. But she has to give her fingerprints in order to purchase a gun in Oklahoma, so it's definitely her.
Oh.
Winona then rented a car, and her and Lena head for the mountains. It's thought Winona committed the murder in the vehicle due to blood evidence in the vehicle that she rented.
Okay, because I was like, why is Lena going along with this? Like, I feel like Winona has to be threatening her along the way or something.
They must have had a common goal. I don't get it either. She then dumped Lena's body.
But the gun?
Returned. I don't think Lena knew that she went to the pawn shop. I think she was like, I'm going to head out. I'll be right back. She then returned the car. The owner noticed the bloodstains.
He's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. And Winona said, sorry, I cut myself climbing a fence. What? You have a car. Why are you climbing a fence? What's happening? Just drive around. I don't. Okay. Then Winona heads back to the pawn shop, exchanges the gun for a different one, heads back to the bank, tries to cash the check, only gets $200. 75 of it, which she uses to rent a taxi because she doesn't want to wait for the train because she's nervous.
It's a long-ass taxi.
Yeah, she gets to Kansas. There she contacted Leroy for the first time and originally said, come to Kansas, and then said, no, never mind, meet me in Colorado. So both her and Leroy were then arrested in Colorado. And Leroy, again, is like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I really have no idea what's going on. They're both extradited back. So the police were said to have been brutal with Leroy, wanting him to confess. And they finally allowed the two to see each other, and he begs Winona to tell the truth.
Oh, God.
This is the only piece of the story that's actually consistent, and it's a record of the first time Winona showed any emotion. She started to cry when she saw Leroy, and she said, if you don't hurt him anymore, I'll tell you all about it.
Oh.
And that seems to be the only common thread, is that she did actually feel bad for Leroy and wanted to make sure.
His parents. sense.
I know. I'm not saying it makes sense.
Like, I'm just thinking about it, like him going into it, like him getting like arrested and him being so confused. But he's also grieving for his dad, but now his mom's dead.
Yeah.
Like, think of how he's feeling.
I can't even imagine. And he's
awful.
It made it sound like he was being beaten for his confession.
Yeah.
Then when Winona was like, "Oh, okay, well, I did it."
Yeah.
Also, just FYI, Leroy had alibis for the murders, so that helps a ton.
Yeah.
Because Winona is not a truth teller. Okay, that's not one of her strong suits. Like flirting, she's off the charts.
You don't say.
Honesty, not subpar. She's not great. No, not great. Another reason she can't be a Ninja Turtle. But we also get another version of events. So she goes back to the story, or the papers go back to the story of Lena borrowing the $4,000 from Winona. For the first time, it said that Winona had a child out of nowhere. They're just like, oh, well, that's Winona had a kid.
Oh my God. We are in a soap opera right now.
I know. He's a 4-year-old boy. He lives in Kansas with another family, and she needed the money because she has to pay for his care.
What?
Just came out
the
of
other guy.
Well, Winona
Mr.
said...
Moore or Morse.
Mr. M. Winona said Leroy was the father of the child, but that the couple had not been married when the boy was born, which was not Lena Green's favorite detail.
Oh.
And it caused some tension between the two women. But I don't...
what Leroy
I mean, maybe. But don't you find that no matter what, it seems like the second they put a ring on it, everyone forgets how to do math. And everyone's like, we're cool with it.
Yeah. And everybody's like, okay.
So that makes me wonder if Leroy was, in fact, the father. Because that would make sense.
But what does Leroy say?
I think he says it was. I don't know.
Okay.
Leroy faded into the night. He's like, I'm out.
Good for him.
He's probably in the sewers. This is what she's saying now. Now, unable to pay back the $4,000, Winona claims Lena tried a few schemes to get the money back to Winona. She tried to get it from Bob. It didn't work out. She tried writing a check, but that check bounced. And so finally, according to Winona, Lena just said, well, we got to kill Bob. That's literally the only solution.
No, I don't believe it.
I know. And in her recount of the murder this time around, it doesn't sound as planned out as she's made it previously, where, her and Lena kind of schemed on it. We're going to get $10,000. You'll get your $4,000 back. I'll get $6,000 and we'll move on. Instead, Winona said she tried to tell Bob about Lena stealing the money from her. He didn't believe her. So she got so mad that she shot him out of anger.
No.
And then Lena doesn't say, hey, plan worked out. We did it. But just says, I know you did it, but I'm still going to pay you back from the $10,000. I find this one the hardest to believe.
This is all bullshit.
If Lena knew that Winona murdered her husband of, decades, do you think
give you some money back?
Her first concern is, oh, that is a bummer, but now I can pay you back. So it's going to work out in the end. That's not, I mean, we shouldn't not going to say that. No. Like, she's either planning it with you 100% all in and that's what's happening, or she has no idea, which is probably
all bullshit.
More likely the case.
Exactly.
From here, Winona details the drive out to the mountain road, saying she was now scared of her mother-in-law.
Okay.
Right? Because her mother-in-law knows this weird secret. And she brought the gun for protection. The two women climbed a fence. This woman is obsessed with fences. Climb a fence. Why? Why are you climbing fences?
Maybe they're trying to sneak into a property.
Yeah, they're good. It does. My next note is like to get to a house in the distance. These mysterious woods people they're going to visit. And then Lena attacked Winona, choking her. Now, I don't know how tall anybody is, but Winona's described as petite and Lena's described as almost 6 feet tall. So I'm guessing Lena was a lot taller than Winona.
Yeah.
Which she's playing on right now. And it was only then, while she was being choked, that Winona fired the gun. Just to run it back for you, here's the versions we have. Winona killed both her in-laws in cold blood for money. Winona and Lena planned to kill Bob for the money, and then they later got into a fight in which Lena was murdered in self-defense. Winona killed Bob in anger. Lena then knew about it, but was like, don't worry, I'm still going to give you half the money, and then they got into a fight. Or Lena wanted to kill Winona and then kill her own son. to get the insurance money that she'd already gotten from her husband. Oof.
No,
if you're having trouble
it's number
following,
1.
I get it. Yeah, it's number 1.
Good Lord.
The absolute only other theory I will entertain, and the police floated a lot too, they'll say, when this was Winona's plan all along, and she was next going to murder Leroy.
Oh. But that would contradict her emotions for him.
Well, maybe that's why you'd think you'd start there. She's not getting the money from her in-laws dying. It's going to Lena, and then it's going to Leroy. So if that is the case, she's working backwards. And maybe it's because she couldn't bring herself to kill Leroy. Maybe she did actually have feelings for him.
But if Leroy was gone, would the money of the in-laws go to her?
Yeah, if Leroy died, she would have gotten his life insurance. He had his own life insurance.
His life insurance. But there was talks of her wanting the Green estate, which the order then would make sense.
So you think she would have been waiting for it to get to Leroy? I don't know. Maybe. She doesn't seem...
Who knows? I don't understand how she thinks. So yeah,
she's not super logical.
Yeah.
She's all over the place. Anyway.
She's truly all over the place.
There are so many weird repeat facts in here, but things also change. Like she keeps threads throughout, like the fence, the car, the bringing of the gun. There's definitely some threads of truth, but there's always a spin to it. The only thing that ever really remains constant is that she did it and Leroy didn't. That's really all that always remains. Oh, I forgot. My other question, though, is I have trouble even believing that Winona had $4,000 to give Lena. That's a huge amount of money for 1924.
That's a lot of money. I just don't know enough about them, I guess, if she would have that.
She wouldn't. I mean, nothing I've seen. Leroy's in and out of work. She had to borrow money from her in-laws. I just don't understand how she would have $4,000.
Yeah, you're right.
And if she did, I would think there would be a very clear explanation.
Nefarious.
Something like Winona had recently inherited $4,000 because her uncle had died. There's nothing to ever say how she got the $4,000, and that was the biggest thing that the police were asking. They said, they're like, how did you even have $4,000, and why would you give it to her? Because they couldn't find where it had come from.
Okay.
So, like I said, that's the story that the police believe. They don't think she had the $4,000. They think she was going to kill the whole family. They believe Lena and Winona were not on good terms because of the child out of wedlock.
Yeah, okay.
And that her and Leroy also had a rocky relationship, which for sure, this is not like they were... they're not a model couple. For sure it was dicey based off of what we were seeing in this aftermath.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Leroy did think another man might have been involved because he saw a man hanging around after Winona was arrested.
Oh.
Lurking by the house. So his theory was that another man was involved in the murder of his parents. But it's so hard to tell. It could have been a reporter. People are weird. Could have been an admirer. I don't know.
Yeah. Could have been at plain clothes. I don't know if they do that back then.
I don't. Well, she's in jail. So the plainclothes detective would have known where she was and just gone to the jail and stared at her. When the trial started, Winona's father was said to pay for a legal team to help his daughter, which is very nice because he's just an agent of sewing machines. Despite Winona's absolute insistence that she was sane, she still went through a competency hearing at the start of December.
Okay.
While court was in session, Winona ran from her seat through the court to grab a picture of a child that they were showing. And she started, quote, caressing it and claimed it was her baby. But her lawyers, said they thought this was also a lie because they could find no proof that a child existed, and she refused to say where this mysterious family was that was taking care of him. So we don't even know if that's true. God. Anyway, despite this outburst in court, she's declared sane to stand trial. And right before Christmas, she's also officially indicted with the murder of her mother-in-law, Lena Green. Although she will never be charged for that murder. I just want you to get your anger out about that right now.
Spoiler.
Yeah. When Winona's trial finally started on Friday, January 16th, it was over by the 19th. Despite the ruling that Winona was saying to stand trial, the defense did not object to any evidence or try to add reasonable doubt. Their only tactic at this point was to continue to push that Winona was not in her right mind. And they had medical testimonies to prove it.
Wow.
They had nothing. She wouldn't work with them at all either. The jury deliberated for 20 minutes before finding Winona guilty of the murder of Robert Green.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, for a hot second, because this is first-degree murder, because she laid in wait at the train tracks, there is talk of death row, and it would have been electrocution at 1924 or 25. I swear to God, I'm not looking into these cases. They always just have these common threads. But when she's sentenced, they sentence her to life in prison. And for a hot second, her lawyers file some appeals, and then they're just like, you know what? I think that's probably the best we can do here. Like,
not going to get better than that.
You're lucky. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Now, after this, the papers go pretty quiet on Winona until April 11th when she escapes.
Jail. Well, prison.
She escapes. Why do all of these women escape?
She escaped, 5 months later? No.
Well, she's still in jail awaiting like her final transfer and her final sentence. Do you know how she escaped? Do you want to guess?
She flirted her way out.
Oh, gosh, I wish. That would have been great. No, somebody snuck her in a tool. Nobody knows to this day how. And she cut through
essentially the same thing, I bet.
She cut through the iron bars.
Here, I'll show you a nip. Give me the keys.
Just a nip? Really? You think that was enough? I mean, at least 2, you know? Anyway, then she dropped 20 feet out the window and took off. There were
20 feet?
Yeah, there were other women in the cell with her, and every single one of them went, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not hitching my star to you. We've seen you in action. They're like, we're going to stay here. We're not interested.
That's hilarious.
So like the prison guards get back. The iron bars are off the window. All of the other women are sitting there like, I don't know where you've been, but Winona's out. Nobody even attempted.
Hilarious.
Winona only tastes freedom for 2 days before she's found in Tennessee.
Come on, girl.
I normally would say that police captured her,
cave.
but she's not good on the run. This is what happened. She's walking on the train tracks, the actual train tracks, because she's too nervous to go into the train station because she's afraid they'll see her.
Fair.
So she's on the train tracks. Well, I mean, blend in, you know? So because she's on the train tracks, an officer sees a lone woman on the train tracks and he thinks, I better help her because every other woman is inside the train station. And as he approaches, she starts speed walking. And he's like, okay, ma'am, are you okay? And she says, I'm looking for a room. He didn't even answer her. He's just trying to make sense. Like, why are you looking for a room on the train tracks? And before he can even say anything, she just says, fine, I'm Winona Green. You're looking for me. That's it.
Wow. She lost it.
The Waco Times.
Quick.
It's
wow.
Like,
she just
it's
crumbled.
Like if we were captured. That's what I imagine.
Hey.
Well, I've seen you in action. The Waco Times Herald has this headline: Winona Green gets excited and gives up.
I would at least run.
I mean, I think I would at least try to blend
first of all, you and I would find a good cave to hang out until it blew over.
I would not find a cave. I would absolutely get on a train and make my way out. Anyway, so Winona's back in custody, and they have to figure out where to send her because I can't fully understand the situation. It's one of those things that papers don't like to talk about, you can see at that time, probably because it's gross. They seem to be fighting over whether they send her to the state penitentiary. Oh, you know I can't say that word. State prison?
Penitentiary.
Thank you. Or the state farm for women. The argument being that the state farm is easier to escape from, and she's obviously a flight risk. And all the papers are saying is they're running a picture of Winona with a small caption that reads, in part, there is no penitentiary for white women in Arkansas. Winona is being confined to jail. So that's a little bit of reverse discrimination and racism running rampant. So I imagine that's why they don't talk about it much. Anyway, eventually she is sent to serve a life sentence on the state farm for women, and this is in Arkansas, which is where Helen Ruth Spence.
Handle this title.
Helen Ruth Spence.
Do you think that's where State Farm got there?
No, listen, that's where Helen Ruth Spence was, and we know how awful
the same time
that place was. Yeah, they probably knew each other.
Truly awful.
Now I have a ton of empathy for Helen. That's our very first episode. We're babies. Listen if you want. It's a little cringy, but it's still a great story. I don't really have the same empathy for Winona up until this point, but that doesn't give anybody the excuse to treat her how I'm sure she was also treated.
Spoiler, they got like forced prostitution.
Yeah. In March of 1927, Winona officially requested a 60-day furlough, claiming that she was in fact innocent, and all she needed was time to collect the evidence to prove it. But this is, I really think it's because she was being mistreated so badly, because Winona also told officials that she was kept in solitary for 6 months and beaten regularly, which is exactly what happened to Helen. And so we just know that is not going well.
Yeah.
They did not say why Winona was in solitary. And she also escaped from the farm more than once, just like Helen. It was not until the spring of 1931 that Winona would leave the farm temporarily, Dr. Shipp recommended Winona be transferred for treatment because she had tuberculosis.
Okay.
But the board of trustees objected, and they didn't want her in that medical facility, so they okayed her going to California instead for tuberculosis treatment.
Okay.
And the length of stay was ruled as indefinite.
Whoa.
It seems like this was maybe just a way to parole Winona, who, mind you, was only found guilty of the murder for Bob. She was never even tried for Lena's murder, which is wild to me.
Yeah, it's really strange.
Winona remarried while on this furlough in 1932 to H.F. Jones and then moved back to Arkansas. They lived on a farm together.
What?
In 1935, the privilege would be revoked when Winona was arrested for trying to cash some bad checks. I mean, you do what you know what I mean?
Bad habits.
She was expected to serve out the remainder of her life sentence because it was a parole violation, technically, of her life sentence.
Yeah, they always get in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. However, a few years later in 1937, an article in the Daily News claimed that Winona may have her life sentence commuted. And she's referred to as, quote, the most beautiful woman ever to enter the Arkansas prison.
There we go.
Her beauty has attracted certain officials to such an extent that she was being allowed undue liberties.
Weird.
I'd like to unpack that sentence a little bit.
That's weird.
What that's really saying is that Winona was either having sex with prison guards for some sort of privilege, or she was being raped. They're basically saying she's so attractive, it's distracting to the prison guards, and we might want to parole a murderer so that the prison guards aren't distracted anymore.
No.
That's basically what that's saying.
No, I hate.
And I'm willing to bet, because we know from the first episode that they did try to make these prisoners prostitutes.
Yeah.
And they were trafficking these women. I mean, it's very possible Winona had to go with the flow in order to survive.
Burn it down. Burn the prison guards alive.
There's a lot that's not said here. I'm not saying Winona...
because it's the fucking 20s.
Winona is an ideal human being before she goes in.
No,
but there's a lot of unfair treatment that's happening.
You have to have just punishment, you know?
Yeah.
You can't be doing crazy shit.
Well, Winona is also separated from her husband at this time. Jones didn't stick with her.
Yeah.
He was out. And on January 21st of 1939, Winona Green was released from prison for the murder of Robert Green, having never been tried again for her mother-in-law. It's thought that she was granted parole originally in 1937, but there was a rule that prohibited parole for a life sentencer. So she was technically furloughed in 1939. From then on, Winona worked in factories for the war efforts. And then she re-entered jail for a short time in 1948. Again, bad checks, might have been carrying a gun. Old habits die hard. She was released in the fall of 1949. Although the papers will talk about her receiving clemency, it seems she was again on some sort of extended furlough that would take her through 1951. And then she just received automatic extensions in 3-month increments after that.
Interesting.
Because it seemed like they just wanted to kind of get rid of her.
Yeah.
And they were hoping that this would do it. So that is part 1. I'm going to stop here of Winona Green. I want to ask you 2 questions. What do you think really happened?
I think it was all her. It was number 1. I feel like there is a child because like, why is she so motivated to kill for money? Is she just off her rocker? Like she has a family. Like she has a dad who cares about her. She's not like on her own. So it feels like maybe she had a motivation of like she did have a child and she had this crazy scheme to try to get it done. So I don't think Lena was part of it besides dying.
Yeah, I don't think Lena or Leroy were part of it at all.
No.
I don't know. I can't fully understand the logic here, but I know I have the benefit of knowing a little bit more of Winona than you do because I have part 2 in my brain, but she seems to look at murder as an easy way out, which is gross and not true.
Which
but
is
it just
crazy.
I wonder if she was stealing money from the Greens and then was discovered or didn't want to be discovered or something like that because
something.
It doesn't make sense. And also I think I mentioned before.
She's constantly doing bad checks after too.
Yeah, I think the time period between the 2 is odd. And I wonder if Bob knew first and then Lena found out after.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll never know. I don't think Lena was involved or Leroy. And it's really sad. I feel for the entire Green family minus Winona here.
It's awful.
But I do think it is an interesting topic to think about how people in the prison system can be mistreated simply because they've been labeled as bad. Because Winona, no doubt, she did terrible things.
Yeah, she should be
She
punished.
did terrible things. And it just says a lot about a society who's like, well, she did bad stuff, so we shouldn't stop bad stuff from happening to her. And it took a long time.
Yeah. You see that with people who, even like silly things, like people getting canceled on the internet. It's just like, instead of attacking the certain thing that they done, they attack the whole person.
Yeah.
And it's like, you make monsters of yourselves by, quote, attacking the monster.
Yeah.
It can get really gross.
We're not even going to know what Winona endured in that prison. And it had serious effects on her.
Very likely heinous.
It was awful. We know what Helen went through, and we have more compassion for Helen because we can understand her murder in a much different context.
Yeah, it's not comparable, really.
It's still
it's still not okay. It doesn't matter. You have to have standards. You can't treat people like that.
Yeah. So
like,
anyway,
fucking gross.
What are your final words?
Cut your nuts off.
Whoa, nuts for the nuts again.
She just seems like a mess, man.
I know.
She's a mess. Like she's
just
weird. I feel like criminal. Her brain's not fully developed. Like she just like bounces around to stuff. Like maybe has some type of thing going on. It's just like, why, dude? Why? Like get a job.
She does have these periods of employment. It's very strange.
Well, clearly not long enough.
Nah. All
she
right.
Wants the lavish life.
Well, who should listen?
Oh boy, Oklahomans. Is that how you call them?
That can be right, but sure, let's go with it.
Coloradians. Oh God, Arkansans. Arkansanians.
Perfect. No, that has to be it.
Cops, prison guards, juries, in-laws. Let it not go this far.
Yeah.
And we'll throw banks in there.
Yeah.
People who work at a bank or bankers, I guess you can call them.
You could. Yeah, one could call them bankers. All right. Well, you can find us on all the platforms. Oh, wait, I forgot my whole speech. You can find us
Tea Time Crimes.
You can find us on all of the platforms at
Tea Time Crimes.
Thank you. You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com. We love your feedback and your tea reviews and your case suggestions.
Yes, please continue to send us recommendation for teas and crimes.
Yes.
And we will be back next week.
Hit that review button. Hit that like button. We have merch at teatimegrimes.show. Buy a top or a tote.
Yep. If you understood that, good luck to you on the website. And we'll be back next week with part 2. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.